Hi, how you doing? Okay. So, I've been thinking a lot about the great philosophers of history, uh, like Schopenhauer, Stoicism, Buddhism, Christianity, nihilism, and then just modernity, which, because it's the day of information, includes all those things plus the things that we tell ourselves and each other. Um, so so I just, like those things, like they only take you so far. So in many cases, I've gone beyond most of those things. So, so this is about the Ducharme philosophy, the Angie Ducharme philosophy, the Ducharme philosophy. This is the Ducharme philosophy that I've come up with, and it starts with two things. You realize that, I mean, you don't realize it yet. You admire people. I'm looking at notes to try to make this video not real long. You admire people that have made a choice. You realize that the people that you admire are people that have made a choice. And so you wonder what might your choice be? What might be your one thing? You know? What might that be? So it's late and it's like nighttime. Your choice. So you beget. That's you're now you're beginning the journey. So the Ducharme philosophy is it's about that journey, and certainly there would be some people that don't even begin the journey. I think most people at least begin the journey, but I'll go over that. So number one, when you take the first step into a choice, so you make a choice, and you're going to make many choices. You're going to kind of like kind of like going to the store and trying on different outfits, and then you only buy one, the one that you choose. So uh, A, you realize a choice can often be based on predicting other people's philosophy in search of praise. Okay, so it's you see, you listen to everybody. You can see your eyes are open, your ears are open, and you're listening to people that you think are smart people, and you listen to their philosophy and you try to understand them, and you absorb everybody's philosophy. And so then you think you're really smart, just like how kids think they know everything and they don't need their parents' help. You become kind of like that. You become an expert in your mind of all the people around you's philosophies, and so then uh, you figure out how to make a choice so that you will be praised. You don't realize that praise is what you're seeking when you do that, because if you once you make that choice based on the wisdom of all these philosophies that you've accumulated, it's made you smart enough to make a choice that's going to make you very admirable. Because remember, the first step on this journey, first you had to realize that you admire people that have made a choice. So now you want to make a choice. So you're trying to construct that choice and find that choice. But you don't realize that you're seeking praise by giving people too much credit, kind of, for their philosophies. But it's necessary. These are all stepping stones, if you will. B, the need to seem established in your choice so people will admire you. And then number two, the established place you end up in becomes too easy and hollow. So then you do it. You wanted something, you went for it, and you got it. Now you're successful. You did it, but you realize that this is too easy, and it becomes hollow. So number 3, you realize you need to look within to make a choice. That's what you did wrong. You didn't look within. And this is a huge accomplishment, because you are the only person that follows you wherever you go. Those people, you move somewhere else, they die, things happen, the shuffle of life, and the only person that's going to follow you wherever you go is yourself. So then you start trying to kind of like do the same thing, but with yourself. You follow your heart. To you means make yourself happy. So you hear people saying, it's all, as long as you're making yourself happy, hey, that's all that matters. That's people that have gotten this far. And they're telling you that, hey, as long as you make yourself happy, because it's an accomplishment. That all of these are steps in getting more and more accomplished in something. And so they're giving you good advice. But again, it's just one placement in this journey. B, you consider yourself an expert in not caring what others think of you. So once you've spent some time at this point, you become an expert, or you consider yourself an expert at not caring what other people think. So you say things like, I don't care what other people think. It doesn't matter to me what people think. Who cares? You're too worried about, you're giving people advice, you're too worried about what other people think. And because you think you're an expert and everything, and not caring what people think. Number 4, you drink a cocktail mix of your pride and your sex drive. You're going to eventually, this is going to eventually come up, like so far, these were at non-sexual moments, and pretty soon you're going to get horny, kind of, you're going to have to put that into the equation, So A, you convince yourself you're an expert lover, you think you can, I'm an expert lover, and you're full of advice of how to have sex and how to be, find sex and blah, blah, you become an expert, B, you resent and or be jealous of others with a love life, other people and their boyfriends and stuff like that, and you're like you become jealous, or you resent them for having that, because you're an expert and you don't even have that right now. C, you feel your idea of who your lover ought to be is realistic. So you have an idea of who your lover is going to be, and you believe it's realistic. D, you realize you are being too picky, but before long you realize, you keep trying people out, and if you're smart, you'll realize that you're being too picky. So you'll move forward to the next step. E, you realize you must be the kind of person you want to be as a lover. So you realize you got to be the kind of person that you want as a lover. This should attract the right person doing the same thing. Okay? Number 5, you fall in love. It works, and you fall in love, and now you're in a relationship, and you're in love, and you did it. And things are going good. A, romance, after a while, romance becomes a smaller priority because it becomes attainable. But the satisfaction is fleeting and hollow. It becomes easy, and after a while it becomes hollow again. And you're like, oh man, I thought I've made a choice, and now I even have a lover, and I've got all these philosophies that I don't care what people think and stuff like that. But after a while, you have to admit to yourself it's still hollow. B, you realize sex and romance is just a part of life. So you go back to where you were before you drank the cocktail mix of pride and sex drive, which is good. So now you've worked in sex, and now you're kind of back to where you started before you drink that cocktail mix. C, you become an expert at not caring what others think of you. This is as far as most people take it. So now you're back to where you started. You're an expert again at not caring what people think. And this is about as far as most people make it. Number 6. So this is if you go beyond where most people take it. You meet yourself for the first time and get to know yourself now that you are separate from making a choice based on others' philosophy, so you'll appear successful. So you'll pass all their tests. Sex becomes a distraction. So sex has become a distraction, and you get to know yourself for the first time because you've separated yourself from making a choice based on others' philosophy, and trying to appear successful because you can pass all their tests that they've given you. Number 7, you become enlightened and reorganize your life. So that's just a big step to take. If you can take that step, boom, before long you're gonna be enlightened and you're gonna be a Buddha, and you're gonna reorganize your life now because you've been reborn into like a new situation now. Number 8, you create your philosophy. So now that you're an enlightened one, now you create your philosophy. And this is my philosophy, the Ducharme philosophy. Number 1, since most people only take it so far, you either become a mystery to others, or the more developed ones recognize their last step and then realize you are going beyond that. So they seek to slow you down for fear that you will decrease their importance. So people, if at first it's kind of like you're so new to breaking away from things that people are kind of holding on to you, and they're worried that they're going to lose their importance because they can see that their last step was a step that you just took, and you're stepping beyond that. And they're worried how that's going to affect their importance. Number 2, you realize the only way to beat others slowing you down, to make themselves feel important, is to become stoic about it and to expect it. Number 3, you realize you get more work done by being alone. Eventually, you get good at being happy as a loner, which you remain to be even when not alone. So you become an expert at being happy when you're alone, even when you're not alone. Number 4, you realize you have taken not caring what others think of you to a whole new level. Others' fear that they will become less important becomes a self-fulfilled prophecy. They were afraid they would become less important. Now it's become a self-fulfilled prophecy. They are less important. You don't need their philosophies. You've broken out past them. People become transparent. Number 5, you realize you love yourself in a whole new way, and that new way has improved your love of others. Number 6, you realize happiness is something you only now possess. You thought you were happy before, but you realize, wow, I didn't really understand what happiness even was. I'm only really truly happy now. You realize the only reason most people can only take it so far is they surrender themselves to the perpetual monster because they fail to see their wall is made of distractions. And that perpetual monster is a club packed to the brim of people putting this monster up on a pedestal. Number 7, you realize the journey that goes beyond the monster is the same technique that got you this far, being alone and looking within. Number 8, you realize the biggest distractions in life are expectations and needs. Expectations and needs is the nutshell of these expectations that have burdened you and are burdening others, and it becomes a wall, and they only can make it up to the wall. Number 8, you realize, I already said that. Number 8, and then A, under number 8, the ascetics and mystics that have taken it this far, that you look up to, need nothing more than 1 or 2 modest meals a day and their body, both of which can be escaped in the past, they would even go naked. In history past, nowadays, obviously you can't walk around naked. But in the past, at this point, you might take your clothes off, and because you don't even need clothes, and just go naked the rest of your life. And if you're laughing and saying no, then you don't know history very well. Okay, that's what people have done once they've made it this far. B, time becomes both an expectation and a need. So remember, the biggest distractions are expectations and needs, and you realize that time is an expectation and need. Like the need for it to be the weekend, the need to not be at work when you're at work, and things, this linear time thing, it can become dissolved when you realize that time is just a distraction. Number 9, you realize your body is the vessel of your soul. You accept the responsibility of taking care of yourself in your journey within, called knowing yourself. Gnosis, right? Number 10, things that should be distractions become gifts you can give yourself because of love. Like for example, sex. Instead of denying, so that's where I said, like right in what I'm saying right now, like for example, Schopenhauer and some of these philosophers of the past, they choose to only go this far, and then they build their philosophy on happiness is denying yourself of sex and food and things like this. But once you've made it this far, you can look at yourself in third person, and so that's why we need the Ducharme philosophy. You can gift yourself, and if you think that I'm alone in this, then you haven't listened to everything I'm going to say after this yet. It hasn't happened yet, has it? You can gift yourself those things. You can say, hey, you can look at yourself in third person and say, hey, if, giving yourself, allowing yourself to have a relationship and have sex could really, would be a really nice thing to give yourself. Now, you're not going to take it too far because you realize it's a distraction. You can see it for what it is, but now you can give it to yourself, and as a way of being nice to yourself, because you're giving yourself something nice. Number 11, you become a hollow chore. Yourself becomes a hollow chore that is being taken care of by your system that got you this far. Your system becomes easy, and again, like every time you get so far, there becomes a hollowness to it, because these are steps. You're moving forward, progress, knowing, gnosis, and your system becomes such an effective system that you can kind of take care of yourself on autopilot. And so it becomes kind of like a hollow chore, because now you're just like, you want to kind of go beyond that again, because that's what you're used to doing, is going beyond things. Because now you have become an expert at loving others. Remember, you didn't take it just as far as some of these other philosophers, but you've also at the same time learned to love others, and you love others. So you're taking care of yourself on autopilot, and now you see all these people and you want to help other people because you love them. Number 12, you wish you could help others break away from the monster club, but realize they are you before you could do that. So these people you wish you could help, you realize that they're just you before you could do that. At one point you couldn't do that either, and they're just you before you could do that. And no one but yourself got you here. And how did you get yourself here? They are just you before you got this far. And how did you get this far? Not because somebody helped you. Of course, no one but yourself means that you only benefited from people like you because you chose it. So it's not, you're standing on the shoulders of others. It's not like you did it all by yourself. You had many heroes and learned from many philosophers and many spiritualists, and you've learned, like, you definitely didn't do it alone, but you did do it alone because you chose it. Those those things only became useful to you because you chose to make them useful, which you did by yourself. And so that's why you can't do that for other people. They have to choose that for themselves. And there's an infinite amount of souls where you are now who are actively going beyond this now with you. And some of them are up ahead of you. But since it's an inward journey of oneness that is dispersed thin everywhere, a loner club, and being a member of this club is to be aware you are most not alone when you are alone, especially when you're not alone. You know, that's what you're most not alone when you're completely alone, even if you're absolutely not alone. And so that's the Angie philosophy, you know. So no expectations, no needs, and you become stoic about others always slowing you down and things like that. But you don't become irritated at them, because that's like where you were. That's where you were in the past. Now you've learned to love them, even as they're actively trying to slow you down because they resent that you've taken it further and they're worried that's going to make them not important. You see you in them and you love them because you can relate. You remember that. And so then expectations are evil. Expectations will ruin your life, you know. I need it to be good weather tomorrow. If you need it to be good weather too bad and it isn't, you're going to be miserable, you know. You don't need a plan B. You just don't really have any expectations, you know. And then you can have goals. I mean, you can try to do something with yourself. You know, organizing things is just wise, you know. So that's kind of where some of these spiritualists and philosophers go wrong also, is that they, you know, you don't need to be naked and you don't need to deny yourself of things and deny yourself of everything. You can have goals, you know, just as long as you keep your awareness with you, you can go places that might have just been a distraction before without them having to be a distraction. So, anyway, Jah Rastafari.